You sit down to write, you've got the time blocked out, you've got coffee, you've got 20 years of material somewhere on this computer, and nothing happens. It isn't that your mind is blank. Honestly, it's more like the opposite. You reach for one thing and four other things come with it. 40 minutes go by, and then you go answer email instead. And the worst part isn't the lost hour. It's what you tell yourself afterward, that maybe you're not disciplined enough for this, that other people must find it easier. My name is Jacob Ratliff. I'm a professional book coach, and I've helped dozens of coaches, experts, and founders write books that build their credibility and help them attract new clients. There are 3 reasons this happens. They're not the same thing, they don't get fixed the same way, and picking the wrong fix is probably why nothing you've tried has worked. Because here's the advice you've already heard. You're blocked. Push through it. Write every day. Lower your standards and just get some words down. That advice is for one of the 3. If you've got either of the other 2, it does nothing at all. And then you decide the problem is you. That's the part I actually want to fix, not the stall. Everybody stalls. The story you build on top of it is what ends books. So before we get into it, one thing. Every author stalls. Not the bad ones, not the undisciplined ones. Every author. I've never once worked with somebody who didn't. It isn't evidence that you're not cut out for this. It's just part of how the work goes, and it has causes you can name. And most of the time, you're not stuck. You're lost. Those are different problems, and only one of them has anything to do with willpower. So here's the question that sorts it. I'd write this one down. Do I know what this chapter is supposed to say, or am I not sure? Hold on to your answer because it's going to point at one of these 3. Stall number 1, the blank page. This is the one where you can't start at all. Cursor's blinking, you write a first sentence, read it back, delete it. You do that 6 times and then the session's over. You'll know it by what you do instead. You reorganize your folders, you reread yesterday's work just to get back in. You go look up one more thing you're pretty sure you already know, and the cause here isn't discipline. It's perfectionism, which is really just fear with better branding. You're not refusing to write. You're refusing to write something bad, which sounds noble and is actually the thing keeping the book from existing. So here's the move. I call it the ugly first sentence. Deliberately write the worst possible opening you can think of on purpose. Make it clumsy, make it obvious. Something like, this chapter is about pricing, and here's why it matters. Then keep writing. And here's the rule that makes it work. You don't delete it. Not until the session ends. It isn't there to survive the draft. It's there to break the freeze. And it can't do that job if you keep killing it. Now, I'm not telling you to lower your standards. Your standards are fine. They're just showing up about 9 months early at the one moment in the process where they cost you everything and buy you nothing. What it costs you if you get this one wrong, you decide it's a discipline problem. So you add more willpower, more pressure, and pressure is what caused it. So you freeze harder, and now you've got evidence. Stall number 2, the middle muddle. And this is the one I see most in people who've been doing something for 20 years. It doesn't feel like the blank page. You can write, you are writing some days. It just isn't going anywhere. You finish a session, and you can't tell whether what you made was any good or even what it was for. Here's the tell. You keep starting sentences with "and another thing worth mentioning here." Or you get to the end of a chapter and realize you've written 3 chapters, none of them finished. That's not a writing problem. That's a direction problem. And this is exactly where having too much to say starts working against you. You've got 4 books worth of material in your head and no decision about which one this chapter is serving. So every sentence you write is defensible, and none of them are necessary. You can feel that difference even when you can't name it. The move here is the job check. Stop writing. Don't push through. That makes it worse. Just stop and finish this sentence. And by the end of this chapter, my reader will be able to blank. If you can't finish that sentence, there's your answer. You've been writing without a target, and no amount of effort fixes a target problem. If you can finish it, go read your last paragraph and check it against the job. Does that paragraph actually serve it? Or is it something true and interesting that belongs to a different chapter? Let me give you a real version of this. Somebody I worked with had a chapter she called pricing. She couldn't finish the job check. So we sat with it, and what came out was, by the end of this chapter, my reader will be able to name their price out loud without apologizing for it. That's a different chapter. Half of what she'd written was about pricing models, which is useful and which belonged 3 chapters later. She cut about 4,000 words in 20 minutes and finished the chapter that week. And when you find the parts that don't serve the job, they go to a parking lot, not the bin, a separate document where you can still see them. That distinction does more work than it sounds like. People cut ruthlessly once they're sure the material isn't being destroyed. Tell somebody to delete 2,000 words, and they'll fight you for a week. Tell them to move it, and they'll move it in about a minute. What it costs you here, you keep going. You produce a lot of words, and every session makes the manuscript harder to fix, because now the drift is buried under more drift. Stall number 3, the lost day, you missed Tuesday, then you missed Wednesday, and now it's been 3 weeks, and you're honestly not sure how that happened. This one's the simplest, and people get it the most wrong, because it isn't a writing problem at all. It's a scheduling problem. Nothing deeper than that, and I want to be clear, because this one gets moralized more than the other two. A missed session is not a character event. Your kid got sick. A client blew up. You were tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. That's a life, not a verdict. The move is the buffer day protocol, and it's 4 parts. 1. Count the miss as a buffer day used. A buffer day is a session you built into the plan expecting to lose it, because you will. If you scheduled 4 writing days a week, you were always really writing 3. Plan it that way, and a missed Tuesday is a withdrawal from an account you funded on purpose. 2. Go back to the schedule exactly the way it was. Same days, same word count. 3. Go straight to the last sentence you wrote. Do not scroll up. Do not reread the chapter. Scrolling up is how a missed day turns into a missed month, because you start editing, and editing feels like working. And at the end of the session, there are no new words. And 4. This is the one that matters most. Never double up to catch up. I mean that. Don't write 2 sessions on Saturday to make up for Thursday, because you set yourself an impossible Saturday, and then you miss the impossible Saturday, and now missing means something about who you are. That's a much bigger problem than one missed Thursday ever was. What it costs you. You treat a calendar problem like a character problem, and you go looking for the fix inside yourself, where it was never going to be. Now there's one more distinction worth having, and almost nobody teaches it. There are 2 ways a book dies. There's the stall, which is what we've been talking about. You stopped, and then there's the drift. You're writing, you're just off job. The drift is worse, and the reason it's worse is that it looks exactly like progress. Word count's going up. You're showing up. You're doing the thing everyone told you to do, and you're getting further from the book with every single session. I've had people arrive at 40,000 words, genuinely proud of the number, and about a third of it belonged to a book they weren't writing. So if you think you might be drifting, here's what to do. Stop. Reread the chapter's job. Reread what you've actually written. Mark everything that doesn't serve that job and move it to the parking lot. Then start writing again from the last place the chapter was still on track. Not from the end, from the last place it was right. That last bit is the part people skip, and it's the whole move. If you start from the end, you're building on the drift. And if you've been gone a while, months even, there's a version of this for you specifically. I call it the re-entry ritual, and it takes about 10 minutes. 1. Read your through line. 2. Read your book blueprint. 3. Read only the last paragraph you wrote. Only that one. 4. Write down the job of the chapter you're coming back to. 5. Set a timer and write an ugly first sentence. That's the whole thing. And I know 10 minutes sounds like nothing against a stall that's lasted a month. 20 minutes is usually enough to break a month-long stall. I've watched that happen enough times now that I stopped being surprised by it. The reason it works isn't motivational. It's that a long stall isn't one problem, it's two. You lost the thread and you built a story about losing it. The ritual hands the thread back before the story gets a vote. Which brings me to the thing sitting underneath all three of these. Accountability and shame are not the same thing. One works, the other doesn't. Shame says you missed Thursday because you're not serious about this. Accountability says you missed Thursday, so on Friday you go straight to the last sentence and write your normal count. One of those produces pages, the other one produces a story about yourself that costs you the book. And the last piece, which I'd tattoo on people if they'd let me. Feelings follow action, not the other way around. You're waiting to feel ready, or clear, or inspired. That's not the order it happens in. You run the move first, badly, and the feeling turns up somewhere in the middle of it. So, 3 stalls. The blank page, which is fear, and you break it with an ugly sentence you're not allowed to delete. The middle muddle, which is direction, and you break it by naming what the chapter is actually for. And the lost day, which is just a calendar, and you break it by refusing to double up. Notice that not one of those is about talent. I've never watched a book die because the person writing it wasn't a good enough writer. Not once. And the only draft that can't be fixed is the one that doesn't get finished. Tell me in the comments which of the 3 you're in right now. Just the number. I read them and I'll tell you which move I'd run. And you might have noticed that 2 of those 3 moves need something to check against. The chapter's job. The through line. If you don't have those written down anywhere, that's the actual reason the stalls keep coming back. And it's what the 1-hour book blueprint is for. It's the first link below, and it's built to be finished in an afternoon.